in under a half an hour. It is a few minutes before 8. I would love to take some time to have some dialogue or to get your feedback, observations, questions, concerns. I'll start just by saying the thing I like most about this documentary, documentary, informational movie, whatever you want to call it, is that I think it does a really good job of showing all of the different ways that depression can look, because we sometimes hear about, it looking a certain way, and it can manifest in a whole host of different behaviors and challenges. And so I feel like they did a thorough job of showing all the different ways it can manifest. But thoughts, observations, questions?
So not everyone can have access to therapy. So what sort of things do we have here at the school that learners or families that are concerned about learners can reach out for?
That's a great question. Thank you. And most of you probably took or saw at least the survey that we just sent out a couple of weeks ago. Because that's a question we're asking all the time at the school as staff, is what can we do to try to remove some of these mental health access barriers? And depending on the situation, that can look a lot of different ways. And so we would encourage you to first just reach out and get with a staff member. My door is always open, or you can email or come see me, or start with studio advisors if you are a learner. But start the conversation, and then we can support you with figuring out the best path. We're lucky in that in our area, we have a lot of mental health professionals. That's the good part. The not as great part is that sometimes there are waiting lists, or sometimes the only available hours are after school. And so you have to make different plans in those situations. And we're looking at in the future, and these plans are all still very much in the brainstorming process, but we're looking at how we can help with that in the future as well. But I have a list of resources, and there are all sorts of options in our area, even some that offer services for free. So if there are financial barriers, we can work with that as well. But start the conversation, and then we can get the ball rolling. But here in the building, we can help with strategies for anxiety, strategies for coping with challenges with peers. We try to do as much as possible to offer support with those types of challenges, but when the professionals are needed, then we do what we can to get you connected.
Some of the data that I've been exposed to actually says that for the bipolar disorder, one of the most common misconceptions is that suicide attempts happen during the down phase of bipolar, when in reality it's actually the manic phase that most people will attempt depression with. And that's kind of counterintuitive when you're dealing with someone with bipolar, and something to potentially watch out for if you have somebody who's on the upswing.
Right.
They're going to be more likely to...
The manic behavior can lead to impulsive decision making. And just that's so startling to me that 1 in 3 get treatment. That statistic right there at the end, 1 in 3 get treatment. And so reflecting on how can we shift that around? Is it trying to get the initial conversation happening? Is it listening and really hearing and responding and supporting when someone does ask for need?
Like Claire said,
the stigma part of it, talking openly that it's okay to not be okay, so that people don't feel as frightened to take that first step.
One of the things that I've found to be really clinically helpful to me is I treat folks not with depression, but certainly with beliefs that aren't true, and a lot of times they'll joke about it as a way to potentially express it. And one of the most profound things you can do, that I've found to do, is the pure act of reflecting back, which is even as simple as just repeating what's back that they said to you, and word for what they say, as a way to subconsciously communicate that you heard exactly what they said, and that you're listening. And then when they hear it back to them, it's a bit startling, because they realize they're actually getting heard, and then some type of conversation can be started.
It wasn't dismissed.
It wasn't dismissed. It wasn't. Yeah, it's seen as a joke, and it's a really interesting way to communicate.
Right, and that's a reliable tool, because your brain isn't having to go, what do I say, what do I say, what do I say? Just say it right back to them, and see if that can shift the conversation in a different direction. There's some teens in the room. I'd love to hear questions or feedback on how we can make this as open and supportive of an environment as possible. Thank you, Layla. She was already up. Thank you. Just stretching or feedback?
Do you have any opinions on different medications and like if a certain medication isn't working for you? Like as a parent or something, and you're not sure if the medication's working. I know I've had to try different medications and I'm not really sure. It's really confusing.
That is tricky, and I don't know that there's one clean answer to that. I would definitely refer to the professionals who are prescribing to make any kinds of decisions, but at the same time, being aware of how the medicine is supposed to work so that you're knowledgeable about that information is a good starting point, meaning some of these medicines take up to a month to 6 weeks to start behaving in the way that can support you in the way they're intended. You have to take things really consistently. There are other parts of that to consider before just going, it doesn't work for me. Yeah, we've got some, yes.
I was just gonna say one of the big things about medication is when you talk to like your psychiatrist or whoever is prescribing it, is you have to be really open and honest and be like, because I know personally for me, like sometimes I don't want to change the medicine even though it's not working. Like it's just such a hassle to go and change medicine, and especially if you've been on it for a long time. So like, don't be afraid to be like, I don't think it's working. I sleep too much. I still get really sad. Like all this different stuff. Like you have to be open and honest so you can find one that works for you.
Yeah, just continuing with that, I think communication is key when prescribing medication, because sometimes you might notice a good change in behavior, or you may notice that you have an increase, because sometimes you can be misdiagnosed, or you can be like over treated, like they may give you more than you should be prescribed for how you're feeling. Some medications can cause you to gain negative behaviors that you didn't have before. Like you might not have been suicidal, but you were just kind of depressed, and that medications can cause you to become suicidal. So just staying honest and open, and it might not even be that you need a different medication, it might just be that they need to boost it or reduce the intake.
One of the things that came to my mind when you were saying that is that I know that a lot of people find it helpful to journal on a daily basis, looking at your moods. It can be something as simple as just the pain scale that they use in the hospital. Is it 0 to 10? And just put it down so you can kind of see, I've been hitting way too often. This isn't feeling right, and that could be a way to get that to doctor. But really, just the printout from CVS is not a good way to figure out what to expect from medication. So make sure that you talk to the doctor about exactly what the expectations are. And sometimes I go to the doctor and she'll say, it can make you feel better right away, or it might take some time. That way you realize, okay, it's taking time, it's been 3 to 6 weeks now, this isn't improving. Then you'll know, based on their advice, when would be the best time to make a change. But also, you have to be patient, because every body is different, and especially this age group, you're dealing with hormones, you're dealing with things you can control that are out of control. So there's so many factors involved. The patience is the only thing that
Is the consistent, And I'm glad, April, that you mentioned that journaling, or whether it's journaling or just keeping track, a log. I've worked with learners on that and have some doing that now. And what's interesting is when you can establish patterns, if you're consistent with it. And so you may notice over 2 months that you tend to do a sort of this predictable pattern. And sometimes learners will put in their specific triggers as well that they start observing, because a lot of times we just are reactive as we go through our day, and so we don't necessarily pick up on when patterns have established themselves, so journaling can really help. I think it's particularly hard to establish patterns when it's an emotional context, but if you're noticing this day was a 9, this entire week was a 9, think about what was going on that week. Did I not sleep any? Am I eating garbage? Did I get in a huge fight? So that you can start to establish some of those triggers, and then that can help you to better prepare with coping strategies for future ups and downs.
I support the journaling as well. Purely for the analogy is that if you're trying to manage blood pressure, we don't manage blood pressure by one or two measures
Right.
at the doctor's office. We do it in a journal pattern where we've recorded over the course of the week with multiple measures at home. And like you say, emotions are harder to keep track of subjectively.
Right.
Writing it down.
And then you can be scientific about it.
One thing that I've been doing a lot of research on lately is just how our body absorbs the medication that we're on. And the things that we eat, the things that we put in our bodies help to break down the medication and
Or
absorb
don't
it.
Or
Or what
don't
we
eat.
don't eat. And I know a lot of teens don't bring lunches or don't eat breakfast and things like that. And so if there's nothing for your body to break that down or to absorb it correctly, then you're not going to get the effects of the medication the way it's supposed to. So that's something that's
Yeah.
I'm a parent of a teenager. My son just turned 14. And something that I worry about a lot, because it's not cool for him to talk to his mom, or questions are often interpreted as me getting into his business. So since you have teenagers here, do
The
you
experts?
have any suggestions for a parent that doesn't want to be intrusive, but just is concerned and is interested in keeping that open communication with their teenagers so that they know that we do care and that we would be there for them if something happened?
I guess you could say, I guess not necessarily business, but like check up every now and then, just like, oh, I'm here, about your emotions and how you're feeling, and I'll make sure you're okay. Or maybe suggest other people to talk to. That's a really big thing. Like if they don't feel like people will talk to you, or someone else maybe even talk to their friends, or like I won't ask you to talk to them, but I just want to make sure that if you're feeling a certain way that you're getting someone to talk to, whether it's me or a counselor or something.
I think maybe something that many teens experience. I am an odd case. I actually like talking to my parents, but I would say that many teens experience, the defensiveness of talking to their parents. I know, some parents say things, and they mean to be. They just want to talk to their children. And I know there's the whole, how was your day at school? What'd you learn? Nothing. But like, if your kid asked you how work was, what would you say? Just think about it. Because I have asked my parents, and they always say touche. So, but I would say that the big thing is trying to phrase your questions in a way that doesn't make it sound like you think that they're a certain way. I don't know how you talk to your kids, but I feel like that sometimes happens with parents where they're like, are you okay? Is something wrong with you? Why are you acting like this?
And it puts them on the defensive.
Yeah, it makes them think that you're, saying something's wrong with them. And we already have talked about the fact that there's a lot of stigma involved with like mental illness. So I don't really know, I'm not a parent, but just trying to keep that in mind. It's the defensiveness.
I don't know which one we was first.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, I notice this especially a lot with moms, is when your kid tells you something, everybody. That's my mom over there. So, is a lot of times, like most of the moms, is when your kid tells you something, like they're upset or something, your first instinct is to fix it, and sometimes you can't fix it. So I think the big thing is, if they start opening up and talking to you, is like not to be like, okay, what do I do now? Like, okay, like you're sad, what do I do? Like, because sometimes you just need to like listen and like observe and like take it in and be like, okay, like I get what you're saying, but yeah, is to not always be like, I need to fix it. Like everything
Here's
has
what
to
you
be.
need to do.
And also just real quick, don't insert yourself into the situation, because I know I have a mother who does that, where it's like, oh my God, I'm a horrible mother. Oh my God, I'm raising you so that you are sad. So like trying to realize that this is just your teen and it's not your fault. I mean, it's most likely not your fault.
That's a whole different
just getting real. But yeah, so just realizing that like this is their own situation and try not to, because I know that it may make a teenager defensive or feel bad, you know, if they already feel like they're hurting the people in their lives. If you bring yourself into that situation and say like, oh God, I should have realized, oh my God, me, you know, what am I doing wrong? You know, that can make the teen feel like they shouldn't talk to you because it just hurts you and they don't want to hurt you.
So this may be awful advice, I hope it isn't. So whenever I tried to talk to my mom about the issues that I was going through, she did the thing that Zoe was just talking about, where she was like, I'm a terrible mother, I don't know what I did. So basically she talked to my best friend and kind of told them to keep an eye on me. And whenever I seem like I'm about to go through a depressive episode, my friend's just like, hey Trisha, kid's kind of freaking out a bit. So yeah, maybe you could talk to one of their friends.
Did you find that helpful or like annoying?
I find that extremely helpful because I want someone to know what I'm feeling, but I will only talk to my best friend about my emotions. So there's no way for me to get the help I need unless my friend is relaying
Using the
stuff
network.
I'm telling them.
Like an advocate, ally.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in other PIP meetings, like our social media PIP meeting. Knowing your child, like just, you know your child best. I mean, you've lived with them since they were born. But you know, it's really important that you like recognize your child's personality and try to find the best thing suited for them based on that, because that may work for someone who's like, you know, maybe shy or you've never like had a great relationship with your parents. I'm not saying that's you, I'm just saying some people. But you know, there could be other people that would not find that helpful and that might actually like further your relationship. But I think just like sensing what would work best for your child.
This is kind of like not on that topic, it's just something else I wanted to bring up. But it's just, I think with teens, a very important thing is if you have a very like driven teen who wants to get a lot done and has big ambitions, and then you don't see them like following through on it, or like they're like, I'm gonna do all of this, and then they're like, can't, like, you know, like they're not getting like, they're usually like a good person getting good grades and their grades start dropping, and when you ask them, they're like no, like it's not like, yeah, I mean, if that makes sense, they're like, no, like I'm fine, like I can study, like is like, you have to notice that stuff. Like sometimes it's the little things, like, you know, everyone says like they sleep too much, they sleep too little, but like sometimes it's hard to see in teens, because I know like even like some teens who have no problem sleep all day just because like, why not? But there's also like, you also have to notice like the little things, like when schoolwork starts slipping, or when they don't hang out with friends as much, or a really big thing is when they do like activities and they stop wanting to go to those activities. Like I do theater, so like if I just like stopped, like if I was just slowly like kind of drifted away, just stopped going for the rehearsals and like was like, I really don't want to go, like that would be a sign that kind of like, maybe something's going on. So sometimes you have to like also take the little things, and sometimes it has nothing to do with like a mental illness or anything, like it's maybe something completely different, but sometimes like you just have to notice that and like kind of be like, okay, and when more things start happening, you kind of be like, okay, like is something going on here, like.
So you're saying if they observe changes in patterns, that's a sign to kind of look
especially for
deeper.
teachers, but I feel like a lot of times teachers, especially with work, will notice it first when the kids start slipping on work. Because like you can tell your parents like, oh, like yeah, I got it done, and then but your teacher actually knows like you don't have it done because they can see the grades. And so when that starts like slipping is kind of when like especially for teachers, you kind of got to be like, like this is not normal. And then like I would never say like walk into them and be like, what's wrong? Like are you mentally ill or whatever? Like that's never a way to approach it. But you can always just be like, like, why is this not getting done? They'll be like, oh, well, this isn't getting done because of this. And then if it keeps happening, you kind of gotta be like, something else is going on here. Like, you gotta, like, think about it.
I was going to add, I think as adults, it's important for us to, on occasion, be vulnerable and show that vulnerability in some way. And it doesn't have to be like a dramatic episode on the floor or anything, but like,
She's looking at me.
Both Andy and I have our tiny tables on our desk, and it's a fun little.
It's an emotional support table.
Right, it's an emotional support
flip
table.
it over.
If there's any frustration, we can just flip the tiny table, and the teens know it's like, oh, the tiny table is upside down today, and there must have been a thing happening. You're like, yes, the tiny table is upside down today. We'll flip it back over, and it's like, yeah, that happened.
And we sometimes let the teens flip the tiny table as well, so
Yes.
maybe that's the takeaway.
It's
You all need to buy a tiny table for your home.
But it's sometimes nice just having those like little things around. It's like, oh, I noticed the tiny table is upside down today.
I remember when I had my adult child, he's still in depression. I didn't know how to handle it, and so we kind of work out what she should do to tell me without telling me. And
So like a
she would,
sign.
put a specific bracelet. And then she would test me sometimes, be like, or like, oh, I like your bracelet, and then we'll just kind of end the conversation. But reflecting back on something that's been said regarding those movements in several levels, but when your child takes the time to talk to you, first, don't take it personally, whatever they say to you. Their behaviors, it's not about you, like you were saying. Don't take it personally. Just listen and reflect back, so they know they've been heard. Not only just when kids are joking about, oh, I'm impulsive, but also when you're having a serious conversation, and then you can reflect back on it. So you're saying that you're feeling a little tired of it because maybe, or whatever it is, and just reflect back and not necessarily feel like you have to add to it or fix it. Because most of the time they just want to be heard once they say it. Sometimes you gotta make note of it and do something else.
And it's hard, because
Yeah.
our brains go, let me say all the things.
I know I have a routine with both of my parents, two separate routines for if I am feeling a specific way. I'll be like, okay, here we go. It's this routine. We're doing it. And they know, okay, time to start brewing some coffee. We're going to get a blanket, wrap you up in it. It's going to happen. You're going to be okay. And, that just helps me a lot, because I remember when I was really like dealing with everything on my own, thinking like, I don't know how to tell people that I need help. I don't know how to like show them, because it's hard. It's hard for a parent, it's hard for anyone to find a way to help, and all you can really say is just like, how do I help you? What do you want me to do? And as the person dealing with it, it's really hard to figure that out. So using different methods, I kind of just like create little routines that help me through phases, and so that might be something we want to explore.
I have one of the things. They, with one particular child, we have like emotion language that nobody else speaks.
Did you say emotion?
Emotion, how y'all say that?
Oh, like on texting?
Yeah.
Like the little texting? Okay, yep.
Apparently I say everything wrong according to kids.
You have a texting language with the little emojis, yes.
Kid, whatever.
Yep.
All right, so, so then I'll know how this child's feeling if we're having a discussion, and all of a sudden I see that, I'm like, oh, that means that they're shutting down. I need to respect that and repeat it back. Got that? Got that. And never cross that line. If the child gets to the point where they're like, seriously, I don't think you're hearing me, or I don't want to speak anymore, this is what I have to say. And then just like, just really like make a pattern, just say, hey, if you're feeling bad, it's fine for you to say, I just want to talk to you. Like, mine was just with mouth, with no mouth, face with no mouth. But then I'm like, can you just do that with a kiss beside it? So,
Softens it.
and then, you can be like, and that's the way. Okay, thank you, I'm insecure.
The texting thing was one that came to mind. Back to Melanie, your question about just communicating, how do you do it? And sometimes that indirect communication. So even though we say we all need to talk more face-to-face societally, we know we need to do that. We've got too many screens happening. However, the screens can be a safe way for a kid to communicate who may not feel like they're in a place where they can say words out loud. Or even emailing. I know some folks have great email dialogues with their grown-ups in their lives. Or letter writing. You know, sometimes we were talking about this at a level meeting today. It's amazing what teens will feel comfortable expressing in writing, and you'll see it in an assignment and go, I'm so glad that this was shared, because this would never have been shared in a direct conversation. So maybe looking for other indirect ways to communicate, and that may open up a dialogue that they weren't ready to have face-to-face.
Yes, I know my mother indirectly gives me videos like how to fix yourself, and I'm like,
Oh,
like motivational videos.
motivational videos. Yeah. I think I had an observation, and I know we need to wrap it up here, but when they talked about the brain chemistry